podcast time.
Welcome. Welcome to podcast. Podcast, podcast, podcast. Podcast, podcast. Podcast, podcast.
Is that what it sounds like to you when somebody's doing a Is that what you're hearing? Like, podcast? Like,
Sometimes I really do think that there are some bad podcasts out there, and that is what those sound like to me.
Yeah, it's just people talking.
Yeah.
I have not listened to a lot of bad podcasts. I've only really listened to good podcasts.
I went through like a phase where I was like really interested in business podcasts. And a lot of them are bad, but at the time I thought they were good. Anyway, welcome to this podcast, which doesn't have a name.
Yet.
I'm Gabriel.
I'm Colin. We live in Binghamton, New York, and we're doing this just because we felt like it, and we have the means to do so.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a great idea just to, like, have a conversation, get some ideas out there, maybe some... We don't know where this is going to go yet. We don't even know if we're going to show anybody this.
This
but
might maybe not never
they might even...
leave my computer.
Yeah. It might not even be publicized. And then if that's the case, if you're listening to this, then where did you get this?
Yeah.
I'm
Please
gonna hunt you down.
Please contact us. You know.
if podcast found, please contact this number. I'm not putting my number in the podcast.
We could put the rejection hotline.
Wow, that'd be really mean.
Aw. Yeah. Well, no. I don't think it would be mean, because if somebody's hacking my computer and they're like, I found this podcast that's clearly not for me. What should I do? This number? I would want them to be calling the rejection hotline.
Gotcha. I guess that's justifiable.
So we have like some questions that we are probably going to ask each other.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the structure. Does that sound good to you, audience that may or may not exist?
You can't ask them if they can't respond.
Thank you. Guess that means yes.
Yeah.
So the first question is, why is the cadence of people talking on podcasts so soothing? Is it soothing?
It's soothing for me.
It's soothing for me too. I think the reason that I picked this question is because we've been watching Midnight Gospel, and
great show.
Yeah, and the cadence of how they talk is so distinctly podcast. I mean, obviously the show is about that, it's about a guy who has a space cast.
Yeah. But it's set up almost like a podcast show hybrid.
Yes.
Podcast cartoon hybrid, whatever you want to call it, but they talk in a very podcast-esque way, and it's unmistakable. So there is a certain way that that someone's talking or having a conversation, you're like, oh, that sounds like a podcast.
Yeah.
And that particular cadence is just it's really just soothing and calming to listen to.
It is. I don't really know why. I think here's what I would think. Here's my gut response as to why I think it is so soothing, why it sounds so soothing, is because it is, the cadence is understandable. People are clearly trying to explain things that they're talking about clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't take much effort to understand them.
Yeah.
They're putting in effort to make themselves understood, but they're also talking to you in a tone that somebody would talk to a friend.
Yeah.
Somebody they care about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like ASMR.
Yeah. I always saw podcasts as it felt to me like I'm in the room with these people and I'm just hanging out with them and they're having a conversation and I'm kind of just I'm listening, I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything, but I'm a part of it. It feels the same to me as sitting in a room with some of my friends and listening to them having an interesting conversation.
Yeah. And I think that's intentional too.
Yeah.
And also that's literally what the setup is right now. There's us, there's me and you in a room having a conversation, and then there's the mic.
Yeah.
Which is that's what you
That's
look
the
like,
stand-in.
person or
It's the
hacker who's
stand-in.
listening to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of environment is just really, really nice for me. You know?
Yeah.
I love I love being there.
Yeah.
With some pals.
Yeah, and it's like all the benefit of hanging out with people without any of the like possible like risks or repercussions, even if they're like small, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it takes energy to be with people and to I think it's also like a thing about like self-consciousness. Like you when you're around people, like there is always an element of self-consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're listening to a podcast, it's like you get that same comfort, but you don't have to like think about how you're being perceived or how you're coming across.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just nice. And I think that's something that everybody deals with, you know.
Yeah. It's a very chill environment.
Yeah.
Very chill setting.
Yeah.
You were talking about the other day that you think like, we were watching Black Mirror. We were watching the episode San Junipero, and like, they're in like the 80s era, and you said that it has like a very big like neon techno energy, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you thought the 2020s would have like a chill lo-fi sort of energy.
Yeah.
I think podcasts are very much that. They're very like modern, you know?
Yeah, and I think not just podcasts, but like streaming in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think people want to be social, you know?
Yeah.
And I think we're like inventing this new way of doing that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's good.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like one of those people who's like, meh.
Oh, yeah. And like, I feel like the internet has been trying to perfect this, I don't want to call it social media, but I don't even know how to describe it, but like, I'm talking about like, YouTube has been popular for like a while now, and it's definitely past its prime, I'd say, with like YouTube culture.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think YouTube culture, I think there is still like YouTube culture,
yes.
But it's different.
Yeah, it is.
Like, James Charles has like an entire reality TV show on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's innovative.
Yeah. But it's like...
But it's different from like the early 2000s. Like...
Mm-hmm. And it's all interconnected now. Like, people on YouTube will advertise their Twitch channel that they stream on, and then they'll put the Twitch highlights on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then they'll like be like, follow my Twitter.
Yeah, it's almost like, I think YouTube is like an advertising platform for other stuff. Because, like, people will put, like, TikTok compilations, or, like, Vine compilations on YouTube. I remember, like, the first time I was, like, seeking out a TikTok video, I'd, like, seen it in a YouTube video, first of all, and then I was, like, trying to, like, figure out how to, like, use the TikTok app.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, they were, like, they hadn't like migrated like TikTok compilations like to YouTube yet, and I was just very frustrated about it.
Yeah. I want to watch the thing, but I don't want to download the app.
Well, I did download the app. I just found it incredibly difficult to navigate because I am old and 23, which is not old, but apparently too old to navigate TikTok.
It's just like, it's so crazy how like these trends will like cycle. Like, I remember Vine being popular, and like people probably not that much younger than us will be like, what is Vine?
Yeah,
it's insane, and then like people, I don't know, 10 years older than us will probably be like, what is Vine?
Yeah,
it's just a very tight generational thing.
Are people younger than us really like, what is Vine? Also, Colin is 21. I know I said I'm 23, but Colin turned 21 this year.
Yes.
So
21 and a half.
Actually. Do people... Okay, well, great. Congratulations. Do you really think that people younger than us are like, what's Vine? I don't really talk to that many like teenagers.
Like, maybe they've heard of it. Maybe not like a couple years younger. Maybe like 5 or more years younger.
So like, well, for me,
people
that's
in their
like
pre-teens, maybe
16. 5 years younger than me is 18. That's not preteen.
5 or more, I meant.
Oh, right.
Like,
okay,
so maybe like 15 and below. That's 6 years
Yeah,
younger than me.
I can't say that I've like interacted with anybody between the ages of like 12
I have-
and 15.
I have a lot of younger siblings. So
Yeah.
I talk to them and their friends a lot. So I interact with like a good amount of people that are younger than me.
Yeah. So I guess you have the inside scoop on whether or not
Yeah.
13 to 15-year-olds ask the question,
I know.
what's 9?
All right, that got a little out of hand. We went on a bit of a tangent there.
That's okay. I think our second question is, somewhat topical
Well,
to this, somewhat related.
yeah, no, I think it is. It is very related, but
Who are your favorite internet creators?
the creator of the internet, of course. No.
Wow,
I'm just-
Bill Gates.
Wait, he didn't.
Wait,
make the internet.
I'm such an idiot. No, who did make the internet?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Was it like
I don't
one
think it was
guy?
one guy. No. It's like today I'm gonna invent a worldwide phenomenon. No,
Wow.
it was like a process.
Well, I sat down today and I was like, I'm gonna make a worldwide phenomenon.
But you wouldn't have been able to do that without the internet.
That's true.
How did he make the internet without the internet? You know, that had to
man.
be really hard.
Oh man. My favorite people who have utilized the internet.
Yeah.
What even is I guess a creator that's not on the internet is just a creator.
An artist.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I'll start. On the topic of podcasts, I really like the Game Grumps. And they're very similar to a podcast in that they are a YouTube channel that they have conversations and they talk and they don't have a face cam. But what they do show is the video of the game that they're playing while they're just talking and having a conversation. So it's very much like a podcast of two people just having a conversation while they're playing a video game, and there's also the video game on the screen. And honestly, I'm a little jealous of that format because they do that. They do that a lot, and they make a lot of money off of it. And if I could make a living doing that, like, man, I'd be set.
Yeah. Well, I think this is honestly a lot like that, which is why I wasn't surprised that you wanted to do this, because you've been talking about wanting to stream, and this is very much similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of just like I want to get myself out there, you know. I feel like it's the thing to do, and I feel like it's exciting to me.
Yeah, it's exciting, but it's also like really scary.
It can be, yeah, because people on the internet can be very mean.
They're so mean. Oh my god. Like, not even mean, like, I'm like even worried about things like identity theft and like people like stealing your shit and like putting it on the fucking like dark web. Like, not that like that's gonna happen from like a podcast like this, but I feel like especially in like the past year I've just gotten so much more conscious of like all the things that can kind of go wrong, which is like good because it's, you know, helped me to like take control of that more, but it's also just like it's big and it's scary, you know?
Yeah, I feel like the internet is something that humanity kind of created, and then it got way out of control before we could like contain it, you know? Like people started doing everything with it, like very fast.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not, you know, it's not well monitored because there's just so much out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a huge part of our culture today, and you kind of have to do with it what you will.
Yeah. So, you like Game Grumps?
I like Game Grumps.
Who else do you like?
Probably my favorite YouTube channel is Vsauce.
Oh, that's like old. To me, that's old YouTube. That might make me sound kind of young, but...
No, I mean, that it is old YouTube in a way, because he doesn't actually put out a lot of content anymore, or he does, but on like a different channel, and they're like not lower budget videos, but like not they're less like video essays, and they're more just like little tidbits of like facts and things.
Yeah.
But Michael Stevens, that guy is like so amazing, so smart, so entertaining, insightful. basically everything that, you want in an entertainer and, like, an educator, really. His videos are, like, the full package there.
Yeah.
They make you think, you learn something, he's funny, and I watch his videos whenever they come out. Yeah, I was, like, always very interested in Michael Stevens, and what's funny, his channel started out putting out video game content. Like, in the very beginning of his channel, that's wild. He started doing gaming content. So, gamers, we are in good company. Because, like, he's really gone places. Like, he's straight up just, like, gone to remote towns in Alaska just to, like, because he was curious about them, just to make a video.
Wow.
And, like, very cool lifestyle.
Was Vsauce the guy who made the one about, like, I'm pretty sure he has a video about, like, I'm picturing a strawberry, but the video, I think, itself is about, like, different people seeing different colors.
Mm-hmm. The thumbnail's like, a strawberry, but it's green.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I remember, like, I was just such a super philosophical kid. Like, I would think about stuff like that all the time.
All the time.
And, like, I just remember being under the impression for, like, a little while that, like, I was, like, almost, like, alone in that way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody showed me, like, Vsauce, and that was, like, I think the first video I watched. And I remember, like, specifically, like, having that thought and being like, oh my gosh, like, what if people, like, perceive things differently, and, like, you know, my red is not the same as your red, and then he, like, made a whole video about that, and I was like, there's, like, people thinking about this?
You are describing my exact experience with Vsauce, and that's kind of exciting.
It's wild that I remember the thumbnail.
Yeah, no, I picture it vividly, and, like, that's why I love Vsauce, because he really inspires people to be curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's really important when you're, like, producing content for, like, a bunch of impressionable young people.
Yeah.
That can, like, access all this hot garbage content out there. But then they can find this, and they could be like, oh, this is really great and healthy to watch. And, like, it's also entertaining and fun.
I feel like I like some of the hot garbage, though.
Oh, of course, like, hot garbage. There's some of it that is, you can find some pleasure in it. But, like, what are some of your favorite creators? And then we can talk about some hot garbage.
Oh my goodness. Ones. Okay, so when you initially brought up this question, the first person that comes to mind is Jenna Marbles. Mm-hmm. Just because, like, I had the experience, and I think a lot of people, especially my age, have this experience where we, like, grew up with some of her earlier content and then, like, kind of rediscovered her. Like, I watch her stuff, like, pretty much whenever it comes out now, but, like, before, I think, like, maybe last year, I hadn't watched her stuff in years. And I think part of the reason why I like her stuff, and I don't just, like, watch her videos, I, like, listen to her and her partner Julian's, like, podcast.
Mm-hmm. Great podcast.
Like, I watch Julian's channel, which I, like, discovered through her, and I know they stream. I, like, have attempted to watch them stream on Twitch, but I can never seem to, like, get the time right. I think they do it on Tuesdays or something, and, like, it just doesn't, it's not, like, a consistent time, so, like, I just haven't gotten the chance to. But the reason that I, like, love her and Julian's content so much is because it is, like, exactly what we were talking about before, where it's, like, having other people in the room with you, where it's, like, low pressure, and it's just, like, listening to people talk, and it's, like, this soothing experience. I also love that she, and I mean, I know other people do this too, but I really think, like, she is kind of, like, the queen of it, is, like, she doesn't, like, try to present herself as anything other than what she is.
Exactly. She's really authentic.
And, like, it's sometimes hard to tell with people, I think. Like, oh, like, are you being authentic? Like, how can you even know if somebody's being authentic? Yeah. But I think with her, it's just, she's so genuinely, you know, doing what she does to, like, make her viewers and, like, supporters laugh and, like, feel good. And it's just so clear. It's like, I trust her, you know what I mean?
Totally agree.
I don't know. Yeah, she's just one of my favorites of all time, like, forever loyal to Jenna Marbles.
Yeah, I, like, also saw some of her earlier content, not because I was particularly into it, but I had a lot of friends that were, and I would watch it sometimes, and I always thought it was really entertaining. Like, I never, like, sought it out, when I was younger, but I always thought she was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And she, I think, just also is, like, a great role model, especially for, like, you know, people who are maybe, like, looking up to her. Like, I've seen her, like, handle, like, conflict and, like, stuff blowing up just, like, really, really well. And, like, I don't know, I think it's important to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I feel really great that, you know, she's, like, a little older. That's so mean. That sounds so mean, but I mean that in, like, the nicest way. It's, like, I literally just mean that she's 10 years older than me. And she's, like, making content and, like, you know, feels relatable to me. And it makes me feel, like, you know, reassured that as I, like, grow up, like, I'm not gonna, like, necessarily lose touch. Yeah.
Like, well, the Game Grumps, one of them is 40-something, one of them is 30-something at this point. And, like, they're just still having fun playing games together. Like, it's, I think there's a whole stigma about getting older in our culture. Like, youth is so just, like, they want everything to be youthful, and, like, people are like, oh, after your 20s, everything's downhill. And, like, it so doesn't have to be true.
It so doesn't have to be true, but it's also so hard to, like, fight that internalized message. Like, I'm starting to deal with that now.
Because that message is presented everywhere.
Yeah.
And, like, I really appreciate creators that will, like, do their part to show you that that's not true. Like Jenna Marbles and the Game Grumps.
Yeah, like, even, like, just by existing and being, like, in your 30s or 40s or even older, like, I just think that sounds like such a good message, you know?
Yeah.
And to be comfortable doing it, you know?
Yep.
That's so good.
Yeah. Anyone else that you really like?
I think there's a lot of people, but somebody who I've really enjoyed watching her videos is ContraPoints. One of the reasons she's so important to me is because I feel like dealing with intrusive thoughts and, like, just garbage things, like, her whole thing is, like, philosophical and, like, reasoned response. And I very much, like, believe and, like, preach and have internalized the idea that, like, not everything needs to be, like, a logical and, like, reasoned response. Like, sometimes it is appropriate to, like, respond to different viewpoints, like, from an emotional standpoint. And I appreciate that, and I believe that. At the same time, when I'm trying to deal with the internalized garbage that's, like, bouncing around in my brain, for whatever reason, just the way my own brain works, being able to reason with myself and, like, use logic with my own, like, mental processes is, like, the only way to, like, deal with them and to, like, reconcile them and, like, change how I think. And I think ContraPoints does a really, really good job of kind of, like, having that same, like, point of view where it's, like, she understands that, like, yeah, like, we should respond to things from, like, an emotional standpoint, and it's okay, like, not everything needs to be logical, but still, like, responding to, like, different viewpoints, like, from such, like, a reasoned and, like, logical place, and kind of doing both. And that was something that before I watched her stuff, like, I had never seen. And I remember, like, one of the first videos of her that I watched, it was, like, you know, I tend to think very Socratically, and her videos are very Socratic.
Yeah.
And, like, everything that she was saying was, like, a direct response to, like, what was going on in my head.
Yeah.
About, like, oh, well, like, this, and this. Well, what about this? And then she was, like, saying the same thing that I was thinking. And to me, that was just, like, at the time of, like, discovering her stuff, just so rare and so important for me and just so, like, good for my mental health.
She seems very just well-spoken and intelligent and, like...
Yeah, she's so smart. Yeah. She was a philosophy major, which also, like, makes me feel better.
There you go. Like, people who remind you of yourself are, like, the things that you could be, you know?
Yeah.
It's very nice to see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's our next time?
Should I not do that?
That's on the mic. No, that's there forever.
It's canon now. Can things be, like, canon on a podcast?
What are you talking about?
Like, can it be canon that I burp?
It's real life. It's automatically canon. I don't know if you know what canon means.
This is real life, but, like, the podcast is not necessarily real life. The podcast is a story in its own way.
I guess so.
Can it-
Like, people will have their own perception of
Yeah.
what we are doing or what we look like or what this looks like.
Yeah.
But they will certainly know that you've let out a loud belch.
It's canon.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Okay, so Colin had mentioned that we live in Binghamton, New York.
Mhm.
And the next question is, what's something about Binghamton that you will miss when you leave?
Yes, and I wanted to ask this to you because you are talking about leaving Binghamton in, like, not like the near future, but like in the semi-near
like,
future.
probably within the next couple of years.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll move on, at least from, like, Binghamton itself.
And you've been here since, like, freshman year
Yeah,
of your...
we both went to undergrad here. So, I mean, I think a lot of college students do that thing where, you know, they spend the year here and they're kind of living in a dorm and, like, then they go home to their parents. At least that was kind of my perception of what a lot of people did here.
Yeah.
But starting my my junior year, so 2016, in August of 2016, I came here, and that was when I just, like, stopped going home automatically for breaks and, like, over the summer and stuff. Like, when I was really, like, living here full time. And, like, the next year I, like, paid taxes as, like, a New York resident because I'm not originally from the state. So I've been here for, what is that even, like, 2017, 2019, so almost 4 years. Plus another, like, 2 years of undergrad before that where I wasn't really living here. So I've been here a while. Yeah, something I'm gonna miss. I think that really depends on where I go next, you know?
Yeah.
Because one of the things I love about Binghamton is how close it is to just, like, everything else in New York. And, like...
It's in a good location.
It's in a good location. There's so much just natural beauty around here. Like, you can go to a campsite, like, 20 minutes out of here.
So many great national parks within an hour.
Yeah, like, we are within an hour of, like, Ithaca. We are within an hour of Watkins Glen.
Ski mountains.
Yeah.
You've got, like, 3 of them within 2 hours.
New York City is, like, 4 hours. I mean, that's not, like, natural beauty, but, I mean, I enjoy going to the city just as much as anybody else. It's, like, a 4-hour bus ride. It's very easy to get to. It's just, like... I think if I left New York, or actually, yeah, I guess if I, like, left Binghamton, I think I will miss the, like, centrality of Binghamton, like, within New York State. And just how transient it almost allows you to be. Like, I've always seen Binghamton as just, like, a very transient city because it is.
Yeah. I mean, it is very university-centric,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And, like, it caters a lot to the university kids.
But also, like, even if you're not a student, it's very easy to kind of come and go.
Yeah.
You know? Just because it is close to so many things. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a car.
It does, like, blow my mind sometimes that this is, like, a place where people live permanently because, like, I could never see myself living here permanently.
Yeah, and that's so interesting because, you know, one of the problems that this area is facing is that you know, people come here for school and then they leave.
Yeah.
And, like, people, you know, the city needs people to come live here.
Yes.
And it's tough. I mean, Binghamton is behind the rest of the state in terms of, I mean, before coronavirus even, like, Binghamton was, like, slightly behind the rest of the state in terms of, like, unemployment and stuff. And, like, you know, it's always been kind of a bit of an underdog. And it's like a struggle, you know, to get people to live here. But I think it really does have so much to offer. Like, you know, even a lot of the people who live here are good, you know, interesting people. Like, cute little downtown area. Like, so much natural beauty around.
Yeah.
It's affordable. It's super affordable.
Yep.
I think I will definitely miss, no matter where I go, how affordable it is here, unless for some reason I move to, like, the Midwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are those your main things that you're probably going to miss?
Yeah, I think if you had asked me that a couple years ago, I would have said more people.
I was when I posed this question, I was thinking more like the people you know and, like, the people you've met here. That doesn't count because, like, you could have met them anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, like, what about the place itself?
The place itself. Yeah, I think those things, just, like, how much natural beauty is around here and just so accessible and it's affordable. And it is an underdog. I think I like that it's an underdog. You know what I mean?
It's a really nice.
Oh my goodness. There is. If you have not heard of him, which you probably have not, I think his official artist name is literally Guy Who Writes Songs About Cities and Towns. And he has written a song about Binghamton, New York. And it is so good. Just so iconic.
It's all on Spotify. He's got like probably Where You Live. He probably wrote a song about it.
Please go check him out. If you're out there, Guy Who Writes Songs About Cities and Towns, we hope you would consider sponsoring us.
Yeah, we love you.
This is not sponsored.
We quote your songs all the time. Or mostly the Binghamton one.
Yeah, although I will say I showed my parents like where they live and like where my dad works.
I think that's pretty much the point.
Yeah. Because it's really just...
Nobody's going to like go out and like look at the one for like, oh, what is this like random town in Iowa?
Yeah, it's just like...
What is he going to say about that one?
Places that you've been or that you've heard of. But chances are, especially I think if you live in New England, your hometown or, you know, where you live or go to work, like probably will be there. I know he's not done. But I think he is trying to do every city and town in the United States and possibly Canada, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know.
Man on a mission.
Truly. Love your work, Guy Who Writes Songs About Cities and Towns.
Yeah, absolutely. Myself, I guess it's my turn to talk about what I'll miss about Binghamton. I mean, I've been here for 4 years now because I am just finishing up my senior year at the university. I mean, like I said, this doesn't count, but like the people I've met here have like changed my life. I love them very much, and like when we go our separate ways, I'm gonna miss them dearly. But about the place itself, I think you mentioned like the natural beauty. That's something I'll really miss. The centrality of being able to just go in any which direction, go camping, go skiing. Love that. Something more nuanced that I think I'm going to miss really about Binghamton is the drag scene.
Oh my goodness.
Because, I'd never expected such talent to be here.
Yeah.
Out of the drag queens that I've seen here, like, wow. Those ladies blow my mind.
Oh my goodness, Cherry Blase.
Yeah. Cherry Blase, if you're out there.
Shout out to Cherry Blase.
Love you.
I think part of what makes Binghamton's drag scene so iconic and wonderful is that this is not a super queer area.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And yet we have this, like, amazing little gem, you know?
Oh,
and,
goodness.
Yeah.
It's really inspirational to me, because, like, that was something I was interested in even before I came here. And, like, I'd never been to, like, any sort of drag show before I'd been here. I'd only, like, you know, seen an episode of RuPaul's here and there, seen, like, pictures of people on social media, like, doing drag stuff. And I was like, oh, I wish I could be, you know, closer to that. I wish I could be, like, closer to the action. And then I went out and saw that there were, like, some amazing, talented, beautiful people here doing drag. And I was just, like, immediately I was captivated. And, like, I haven't been to many other places, and I certainly have never seen, like, any sort of drag scene in any other place. So I don't know if I'll have the same experiences when I go somewhere else, like, with drag.
Yeah.
And if not, I'm going to really miss it.
Totally agree. Yeah. I wish I had thought of that. Yeah. I think, you know, Binghamton is a small city. I think if you find yourself in, like, a rural or suburban area, it'll be a little harder to find something like this. But, like, I mean, okay, I'm from, like, a pretty, not rural area. It's technically suburban, but we don't have sidewalks. We don't have, like, lights on the side of the street where I was from. We have, like, cows on the side of the road, and, like, you know, it is, like, a pretty rural area. So when I came to Binghamton, which I think, like, the greater Binghamton area, if not the city of Binghamton, I'm not sure, has, like, a population of, like, 200,000 or something like that. Like, this is a city to me. I'm thrilled that we have sidewalks. I can, like, walk down the street and, like, go get a cup of coffee if I want. And, like, I can walk to the gas station. Amazing.
Yeah.
And that was just so novel to me. A lot of people, students who come here are, like, from New York City. And to them, this is, like, the suburbs, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting, like, that kind of perspective, you know? But to me, like, this is a small city, and I think if you find yourself in a small city of this size, like, you will be able to find, like, something, you know? Like, you'll be able to find your scene as, like, a queer kid.
Yeah. It's like... Binghamton is like a similar level of urban to where I'm from. I'm from Long Island, which is another place where a lot of people who go to the university are from. So many people from Long Island.
Yeah.
People make fun of it. You're like, oh, of course you're from Long Island.
Yeah, Long Island or New York City.
Yeah.
Most people.
But I think even more so Long Island.
Yeah.
But it's a similar level of urban to Long Island, except Long Island feels as densely packed as a city.
Yeah.
But there isn't, like, you know, the cool nuances of a city in Long Island. It's just, like, densely packed and stressful. Whereas Binghamton, it feels more, like, open.
Because it is more open, because there isn't a lot of, it's not as densely packed.
Yeah.
And there is more open space. Mm-hmm. And, you know... Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is technically suburban. Like, the area that I live in here is, like, suburban. But I can still walk to, like, the downtown area, which is definitely, like, more of, like, it has, like, a city feel, you know? Like, it's hard to find parking. You know it's a city when you can't park.
Exactly. Yes. I'm in the city. I have to pay this little thing some coins. I think that just about does it for that question.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, so our last question is totally different. But it's, what is the weirdest thing you've seen in a house?
Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I think I actually have to think about this for a second. Because it might be something that used to be in my house.
Okay. My dad used to live, like, down the street from a guy who we would go over to his house sometime, because I guess my dad knew him. But in his house, he must have had in his house and his backyard, he must have had over 30 different kinds of animals.
Wow.
He, like, literally had his own sort of mini zoo. Wow. And, like, as a kid, I was like, oh my god. Like, this guy's literally has, like, he had pigs, he had, like, 5 different kinds of reptiles. He had snakes and tanks. He had chameleons, iguanas. He had dogs, cats, birds, fish, like big koi ponds, like other sort of fish tanks.
I cannot imagine having the time to take care of all those animals.
I mean, he was dedicated to it, of course. Yeah. And, you know, eventually they found out about it, and he wasn't licensed to have all these animals.
Right.
They got taken away. That happened after I had gone to college. So he had them for, like, a good 10, 15 years.
That's wild. That's literally wild.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it's wild. It's
wild animals.
Good thing we did the laugh. Okay, never mind. But it did blow my mind as a kid seeing all these different animals. It was super cool. That is the weirdest thing I think I've seen in somebody's house.
Valid. That's pretty weird.
Yeah, that's weird. It's uncommon. It kind of like Tiger King. We watched that series on Netflix. That kind of gave me the same vibe. Not that he was like a maniac like Joe Exotic was, but it was like the same situation. Like all these animals are like in this like sort of makeshift zoo.
Yeah. I was about to, like, reference Joe Exotic, but I, like, wanted to let you finish. Oh, and I didn't want to insult this man.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't compare that guy to Joe Exotic. But, where was I? But, yeah, it definitely, like, I had no idea how well he was taking care of the animals. I'm sure he was doing his best.
Yeah.
I really didn't know him that well.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have anything weird that you've really seen in somebody's house?
I feel like I've seen a weird thing or two. What I was originally gonna say was for a while I had like a hubcap just hanging on the wall, in my own apartments and houses, and I like carried it with me through like a couple of different moves. But I don't think that's actually the weirdest thing. The summer after I graduated from undergrad, I had like a sublet at like this big house. I've told you about this. And it was just me and like one other person, but it was like a 7-bedroom house, and it was like huge. But I was living there for like 3 months, and I had to move all my stuff in because my lease was up, and I didn't know if I was going to be staying in Binghamton. Right. And I just like had all my stuff with me. So I like moved into this house, and first of all, this house was like a little whack. It was like very big and like still sort of under construction. Mm-hmm. The Binghamton, the Binghamton housing market is like, oof, yeah, it can be a little tricky, but you know, I was happy with it. My rent was like $250 a month because it was a sublet, so I was thrilled. When I moved into this house, there were quarters and like change hidden in a way that appeared very intentional. Like all over the house.
Like an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, but like quarters. And I think it was like it tended to be like a specific type of coin. Like I think it was quarters, but it might have been like nickels or something like that. Like I found one like in the toaster that somebody had like left there. I found one like there was like a handrail on a staircase that had like a little center like divot in it on like the end of it. And there was a quarter in there. Like I found them on like windowsills, like on the toilet seat. Like it was just honestly weird. And for a little while I was like, is this some kind of like, you know, is this place haunted? And somebody had like knows a trick to like get rid of like spirits with like quarters. But I like looked into it because I was like, maybe this is like a thing. Because I knew it like was a frat house.
Yeah.
Before we moved in. And I was like, maybe this is just some kind of like tradition or something. I don't know. But yeah.
You didn't find anything?
No, I couldn't find anything.
Because it does sound like something that would be like a spiritual or religious like tradition.
Yeah.
But or maybe they just wanted to leave you a little Easter egg hunt for moving in. Like... Honestly,
yeah. Yeah. The house was a little whack. Yeah.
That sounds fun. Going around like, ooh, here's another one.
It was, but at the time I was like, I thought it was kind of spooky because I did think it was some kind of like, you know, they're trying to protect the house from ghosts or something like that.
Yeah, I guess if I was actually there, I'd probably think it was a little spooky too.
Yeah.
That is pretty weird.
Yeah.
It's a good answer.
Well.
That is all the things that we decided to talk about before we started talking. Is there anything else that you want to say before we close off?
No.
Great. Bye.